Okay, it's starting. So who was doing the summary today?
I am.
Okay.
So I probably won't talk a lot just because it takes my brain a while to gather everything together. So yeah, but I do have a question. At the very beginning of the lesson, when it was talking about randomization. So for me, randomization is just stick all the numbers in a hat and pull them out, and you've got it random. But I was trying to figure out that exhibit 7.1. I was trying to figure out how they do it, and I'm always stuck on number 2, step 2. Did anybody figure that out?
So step 2, so figure 7.1, that's the one with the circle, oval, and then the rectangle, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So step 2 with the randomly selected sample of the 50 college professors, that one?
The exhibit, not the figure, the exhibit on page 203.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Because I keep trying to picture it and I don't get it. Because step 1 is to just number everybody. So you have 20 people and you give the numbers 0 to 19. And then number 2, it says block the list of random numbers into 2 columns. Is 0 to 19 the random numbers?
That's my understanding is.
Does that?
This is because the maximum number of participants you have is a 2-digit number.
Mm-hmm.
This blocking has been done in a list of random numbers in this exhibit. The same procedure should be done when you're using the random numbers.
Is it so? Okay, so I was probably thinking of it wrong. So is it just sticking them in different groups?
You're going to
group.
Yeah.
Because for block, I was imagining numbers, and then you just block it. You know, just cover.
You can't see them.
Yeah. Okay.
A block I saw as kind of like just you're going to have a block of numbers on one side and a block of numbers on the other. So essentially, you're going to have 2 columns of numbers.
Okay, I feel like an idiot.
No, I mean, I guess if you go to step 3 and it says randomly select the first group of 10 participants. So I guess my understanding was that you're going to have, the 2 groups, and it does show 2 groups. It's really weird though, because you have group 0 and group 1.
Yeah, because I was looking over there too, but anyway, I couldn't get past the block. Cover it up, block.
This is interesting.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't really look at the exhibit. I just read the word because I think forms online where you can just put in the data and they'll do the random things for you, and I'm all about that.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
That's what I do too.
Yeah, the thing about that confuses me is that they use, like I said, group 0 and group 1, and then you have one of the numbers that they use is 0, 0. I'm sorry, as a participant, I don't want to be known as the one that's 0, 0. What number were you? 0, 0.
invisible number?
Yeah.
The one worth nothing?
Yeah, right. Your opinion doesn't matter. Therefore, you are 0. But we're going to put you on there just for kicks and giggles. Sorry, I have to get a charger. My phone is getting ready to die.
Yeah, overall, I think I understood like randomization and matching and how to match. But when it got into the counterbalancing, I understand thing. So does anyone have like a way that they sequencing versus like randomization?
I found that section a little confusing myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like this more than any of the other chapters was kind of like, huh?
Yeah.
I'm almost out of power. I gotta get out of this thing. I'll be right there.
Now, my understanding of the counterbalance is that it's the way that you are conducting the experiment. So it's the sequence in which the things are introduced, but you go over it several times so that you can make sure that it's not like the first one that they try that they think is better, or the second or the third. You're trying it in so many different ways, and if they keep saying, it's almost like when you go to get your eyes checked, and the doctor is like, okay, is number 1 better or number 2 better? And you're like, oh, number 2, and then he'll make a little click, and then he'll go, is it number 1 or number 2 now? And I swear he's just doing the same ones over and over again, but in a different order. But he's doing it so that, if you keep saying, number 2 is better, then he knows that you're getting closer to the one that's actually better. So that was kind of what I was thinking it was when they were talking about counterbalancing. So you're not just asking it in a particular sequence. You're not just saying, okay, like they had used that, like the interest subject counterbalancing. They were talking about that comparison between Pepsi and Coke, and how sometimes they'll ask you several different ways, giving you the same product, but they'll ask you several different ways so that they can determine whether or not it is actually Coke or Pepsi that you like, because they're very similar. So then it just is a matter of the sequence in which they ask you. So you have like the random counterbalancing where they ask, like, again, like they'll ask you in a different type of sequence. I mean, that's how I understood it. And it kind of, made more sense as I was like reading it. And like the complete counterbalancing is that you will ask them as many different ways as you possibly can. So it's easier as long as you only have two things that you're asking between, or 3. After that, it gets almost impossible to find all of the different ways in which you can ask someone to respond. And then it goes on to the counter or the incomplete, where like that one was a little bit more difficult for me to understand. I understood all of the other ones, but to me, it just seems like everything would fall under counter or incomplete counterbalancing if you're not asking all of the different questions that can be asked. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes more sense.
But that's kind of how I understood it. I don't know if any of you guys understood it a different way.
No, I think you explained it really well, and I liked the example you gave of the eye doctor. The other thing that stood out to me is that, it talks about how there's changes that occur over time, and with repeated measures of the experiment will result in order effects because the participant has changed somewhat from the first condition to the last condition. So that was something that helped kind of wrap my head around, okay, so it's basically trying to anticipate that, trying to keep the participant on their toes so that they're not learning, I guess, the pattern of what's going on and guessing, and probably also slightly influencing their decision in a different way, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Are you guys just going through or just asking questions? Sorry, I was so late. Something's going on with my computer. And I didn't have Hangouts on my phone, and so I just downloaded the app. I had to get that. I'm like,
You've all received the official statement of what occurred at Stark Industries
Sorry
last night.
No, you're fine. We went over, just kind of going over questions that we have or things that we didn't understand.
okay. I thought you explained that really well.
Thank you.
I don't know how we're going to keep all these in.
You were on your yacht.
I'm reading it and then doing
We
the
have 4 papers to put
outline,
you on
right,
all night, and it's one
help
state,
people
50 of your guests.
like lay it out on paper and realize the differences between the two. But when I was reading it, I just felt like it was very, like it was just like my brain, and am I gonna remember how to keep all these,
Small aircraft have such a 450
I was reading through some of the responses that people gave on their posts, and it was kind of the same thing that somebody had said. Like they're just like hers was, does wording? No, well, not hers. It was a different question I was looking at about struggling. Somebody had said that she was struggling because all of these concepts and all of these wordings are so similar. It's starting to kind of, like convulge in her brain, and I'm like, oh, I totally get it. Like I can understand it as we're reading it in the chapter, but to try and go back and make sure that I understand all of the different types of validities while I'm trying to understand all of the counterbalancing and the matching. I feel like I need to somehow expand my brain because it's not all sticking.
Yeah. The one thing that helped me when I did the outline in bold letters, the beginning of it is just actually talking about the control and experiment, but then it adjusted them into what ones you used at the beginning, which ones you used during it. That helped, to put differences and categories, keep them more separated. You know what I mean?
That's a good idea.
And so, and then I also put page numbers on this time. I did it.
Mr. Stark has prepared a statement. He will not be taking any questions.
Grade them, but to put the page numbers down as well.
Been a while since
It did help me to put the page. I figured that's one thing that I did this time that Liza had mentioned last time that I really thought was great, was putting the page numbers in the outline, so that when we're taking the test or the quiz, then the page number is there. If I don't actually understand the concept as much as I would like to, at least the page number is there. And I feel like the test questions, at least, they aren't as vague as some of my other classes, where I think that the wording, they stick pretty close to the wording that's used in the book, so you can kind of make sense of the question based on going over this, whatever's being asked from the book.
The other thing that is really, I'm also taking my 400 class, and then I crossover into other. They use the word a lot in this chapter. And so I thought, it just seems like when it comes to research and theory and things like that, everything is well, it may do this, or approximately this, or, it just is very vague to me. I don't know.
Oh, I totally get that. What did you guys think of some of the, like the control for participant effects?
I thought it was really interesting how they plan for taking into consideration all potential extraneous variables, including those who are participants and even the experimenters themselves. And I just thought it was interesting how, they do the blind experiment, but they also can do a double blind experiment to where the experimenter and the participants have no idea, the details or whatnot. So that way that it can remain unbiased, and potentially help control those extraneous variables, including like their motive and how they want to do a positive self-presentation of themselves and their perceptions and so forth. And so I just thought, it's just really interesting to see that. But the additional thing that stood out to me was the idea of deception. It talked about having minor deceit versus elaborate schemes, and I'm just like curious how that plays out. And it talked about in previous chapters how at the end of the experiment, when it's all over, they end up doing, I forget the term, but they
Like a debriefing?
Yeah, debriefing. Thank you. Yeah, so it was just really interesting, like how much they have to consider, how much work that must be.
I think that the debriefing, I mean, I can only imagine going through something and having someone tell me that it was an elaborate scheme. I think I'd feel a lot more fooled.
Yeah.
And maybe not as comfortable with the experiment as opposed to something that was small. But I guess that's why you do the debriefing, so that they understand the purpose behind it.
Yeah. And I guess like if they understand that could potentially be the case, like, and not knowing, like going into it, or at least for myself, like if I knew that there could be some form of deception along the way, like it would at least prepare me, like, okay, I won't know because it'll be random, but so.
That's true. I thought the one part I thought was interesting was the what is it? The matching according to, or like building the extraneous variable into the research program. That's one that I guess as I've been like going through this, I hadn't thought of that as an option. I'd always thought of the extraneous variable as something that is like you want to avoid at all costs because it's going to destroy your research question. But the idea that you just build it into the variable and keep it constant kind of. That was something that I'd wondered in past chapters, like what do you do when the extraneous variable is always popping up, and you make it part of the study itself, then it eliminates the effects it has as long as it's constant amongst all the groups.
Yeah, I thought about that too, just how some extraneous variables, and so you have to put it into the experiment. With your question about the control of participant effects, 209, at first, like, it just looked like a bunch of terms, kind of like a dictionary, and I have to remember all of them. And they all make sense. They're really similar. Most of them are like about how they stop the participant in the middle of the experiment and they interview them about what their thoughts are, and if they're I don't know, like, or there's the think aloud technique, which they have participants talk about what they think in the experiment, and I thought those were interesting. I have a hard time getting them all, so I think I'll just like write down the page number again and look through during the test.
The other thing I thought of too when I was reading about the double blind, and where the experimenter and the participant isn't they don't know really details of the experiment. I kind of look at it as like killing two birds with one stone, because then it eliminates a lot of, affect negative, I think it eliminates a lot of that whole thing if we do that one. But that's how I looked at it.
Yeah,
It's
me
interesting.
too. It would like take away a lot of the bias from the researcher and the participant. So when I think of like double-blind studies, I'm like, yeah, that seems really good. Like a double-blind study patient, I think would have really strong results.
Well, I think it's interesting where they have the double blind study, but then they also have the blind technique and the partial blind technique, and it's all, I mean, to kind of help eliminate the experimenter expectancy error, which was the subject that it was under. I just thought it was interesting, the idea of eliminating the bias or any bias from the experimenter with these blind techniques, or these blind or I guess the double blind and then the blind technique.
Did you guys already talk about the match?
About the what? I didn't catch that.
The matching? Can you guys hear me okay?
For me, it cuts in and out a little bit, but I don't know if it's.
We have windstorm.
Uh-oh.
I think,
Oh.
Tammy, I think you're frozen.
Can you guys hear me better now? I turned the Wi-Fi off, or no?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, we have a windstorm going on right now, and I don't know if that's messing up my Wi-Fi. What's going on? But I'm wondering about the matching. Did you guys talk about that?
We touched upon it just a little bit, but not much. So if you have any comments or questions, they're welcome.
Okay. I mean, I get it. It just, some of them talk about, I'm like, why would you even do that? I don't know. I just didn't see a lot of advantages to some of them.
I suppose it could be based off of the type of experiment maybe they're trying to do,
Yeah.
Trying to find out.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of understand. I think they give the example of intelligence. If there were two really intelligent people, I would want both of them separated, rather than them being in the same group, because that might something else that you're trying to look at in the study, more of a equalizing the group so that you get more accurate result. That's how I saw it.
You can just see I think you can just see the real importance of the randomization, like picking that one when at all possible. Like that's like the best method, it seems like, if you can. But then again, I guess it just depends on your experiment, because there are going to be times when you're going to want to do matching.
Yeah, I'm trying to
I think
think about these things as I'm going over my proposal, and again, I feel like this chapter more than any has got me really confused, other than the randomization, and I understood the counterbalancing and the need for that, but to try and figure out how to implement it into the proposal it's a little bit more, I don't know, difficult to think how I would apply it.
The hardest part on this is knowing when to use what and when. Do you guys feel that way? Like if you were to do a study, like which one is the best one to use?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many options, it seems like.
So can you do randomization and then the matching techniques on top of it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they talk about, I don't remember where, but
You
there's
know
a
what,
term, I think.
I was going to say, it seems like you wouldn't be able to, just because it's, it takes away the idea of randomizing. It would take away the idea of needing a control group. I mean, if you're randomizing the control group and randomizing your participants,
Yeah.
then you kind of lose the purpose of why you're randomized or why you're having a matching group or a control group to begin with. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
This is where I'm like, I don't know. Did you find that term, Tammy, that you were looking for?
No, I'm looking, but I was thinking that they talked about doing both in one part, and I can't.
Okay, hold on.
And maybe I'm just thinking of the stratified sample.
Well, this says the key weakness in matching is that the groups are equated only on matching variables. So if you can combine matching with random
Oh, there you
assignment,
go.
this problem is eliminated.
Where is that at? What page number is that at? Oh, wait.
Page 195.
Can you tell us the heading? Because I think your numbers are a little bit different than ours.
Oh, yeah. It's just under matching.
Just that first part of matching?
Yeah. It's like the second and third last sentence.
Oh, there you go.
I think.
Huh. I didn't mark it.
So it says match pairs of participants and then randomly assign them
Yeah.
to treatment and control groups.
I remember seeing both the terms together, and I can't remember. I'm looking at my notes and not the book, though. Oh, maybe that's my problem. I don't have it in my notes either, but it must be important if we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever done a research proposal before?
No.
Because I'm like, I was wondering how it all fits in together with it. Because I'm like, it just seems like so much. And so I kind of went searching on our site and I found this resource that's, on the left-hand column, it shows the weeks, and at the bottom it has resources, and it has different examples or samples of a completed proposal. So I don't know if that would be worth looking into, but I thought maybe it might help. It has a PowerPoint. What's that?
Did you say it was a website?
So if you go to our Site 302 class and then go to content, and there's the left column where it shows all the different weeks.
Yeah.
But at the very bottom, it has the research tab or resources tab, and it has some proposal drafts as well as a PowerPoint of explaining how to do a proposal and stuff, I guess. And there's also sample student completed proposals that might prove
the materials to help you with your proposal. Is that what it's in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it has please review the following materials as you create your proposal drafts, and then it has 2 student examples at the bottom. And so that might be helpful when we're trying to decide how it all fits in, I guess, when we're determining what we're going to use for our proposal.
That's some great information.
Yeah, because I'm like, I have no idea how all this is going to come together.
Mhm.
Like, there's just like, this book is just so, there's just too much, you know, to where it's like, how do you, you know, narrow it down? Like, okay, this is what we're going to use and how it's going to be applied. And also incorporating that APA format, because he stresses that with a lot of documents that we've been turning in, especially the lit review. So,
Well, this is like it's a serious, I'm just reading through one of them, and it's a serious, I mean, it's like 10 pages of writing and then his resources.
yeah.
So it's like
I'm-
college work, right?
I'm
Yeah.
wondering when like, when do we stop compiling all these parts?
I wonder if the annotated bibliographies are part of it. I haven't looked
Yeah.
it up, but I'm guessing that might be part.
Yeah, and I don't know how many like total sources we're supposed to have at the very, very end, but you know, the annotated bibliographies, that I noticed that some of them, when I'm like looking in more detail of like the different references that I did find, a lot of them, there's one that's more of like promoting a program instead of the testing of a program and the results there. And so I don't even think I can necessarily use that because it's just an idea, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find new ones if the,
The originals
one-
don't work.
yeah.
It's like so hard. I just, sometimes I wish it was easier, you know, because it's just so much, but I don't know. Have you guys found worthwhile references and stuff?
So
I think, I hope so.
I think I found some pretty good ones. I'm still waiting for some interlibrary loan stuff to come in so that I can I found a couple of things that I think would be really beneficial, but I need to make sure that they come in so that I can go over them a little bit more, and I think it'll kind of support the hypothesis that I'm trying to develop.
So amazing how like we're halfway through the semester. It's like we're almost done.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But then it's also scary because I'm like, oh, my proposal's gonna need to be turned in soon.
It's awesome to think about how much we're learning in here. I'm hoping that that we get to use it at some point because there's a lot of information. I mean, it's kind of cool though because I feel like at least in the Family 400 class, the last couple of weeks we've been given a study or two to read. Like this week we have 2 studies that we're going through, and taking this class is helping to kind of put the stuff in perspective, like what they're talking about. There are some things that they discuss where I'm like, okay, I think I understand that a little bit better because of this class.
Awesome.
But I have to admit, a little nervous about the idea of putting together a study and actually having to like put that study into play. Like, you know, we're seeing the parts and everything else that come about, but like making sure that everything, all the T's are dotted, all the or all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. See, that's where I would get in trouble.
Well, we don't have to actually do the study. We're just writing up the proposal.
Yeah.
So,
So that's nice.
Yeah.
good thing.
I think there's another class that you take that you can actually apply your proposal and do the study.
Yeah, I'm not doing that class.
Because you didn't go
Is there anything else we need for the summary? I actually have to go soon.
Okay.
But
I think the only thing that is the gospel application usually, right? We just
Yeah.
ask questions and then comment on stuff, but then there's the gospel application.
How do you apply the gospel? I don't.
You know, I just keep wondering, like, does Heavenly Father ever apply any of these, like, methods? And how does he do that? That's what I can come up with.
Well, I just hope it's not the double blind method because, you know, I need to feel like there's someone that's got their eyes and ears on everything, even if I don't.
Yeah, I think that it's probably not double blinded for him. He can see everything, right? So
Yep.
that's
And
reassuring.
hopefully we're not an experiment to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and partly is like, you know, the nice thing is that although he helps to influence us, he doesn't do it until we seek that out for the most part. Because like, and I think that's, you know, plays a part in, you know, what we've been studying is that, you know, the experimenter is trying to not influence the conditions in order to cause a certain outcome. So Heavenly Father respects our, you know, free agency in a way that, you know, we can accept his influence or we can reject it. And he increases his influence if we seek after it. And so that's one thing.
yeah, that's really good.
I like that a lot.
So who's doing the summary this time?
I have the summary. Was that your question?
Yeah, you're awesome.
So yeah, right now it's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo.
You'll pull it together.
Has everybody done a summary up to this point now?
I think so.
Okay. I can do the next week to start the cycle again.
Okay.
Stop the broadcast now. If that's all right.